33. We had an audience. It took him a moment to understand what Aresh had just said. As if replaying it, Saikaira ran Aresh's voice through his mind once more, then looked again at the man holding him. No. He opened his mouth. No, now you say that? He had been aware of Aresh's feelings. Well, if that weren't the case, the man wouldn't keep touching this worn-out body over and over, nor would he protect him so excessively. Anyone who didn't notice would be hopelessly oblivious. But the current situation was simple. Without Aresh's protection, without his barrier magic and healing, Saikaira couldn't survive. More than that, for the sake of the nationwide miasma purification project, Saikaira had to keep working. Yet in his natural state, he would die easily from miasma. Even without it, mana would weaken him. Medicine would poison him. Even magical healing would leave him nauseated enough to collapse. If Aresh wasn't beside him, he would die, plain and simple. He knew he was taking advantage of Aresh's affection. But dealing with the miasma crisis came first. He had planned to address this calmly once things settled down, but... So what if I said it now? The aristocratic knight, 8 years younger than him, leaned back with languid confidence, black hair loose, exuding quiet allure. You say that, but my body is dangerous unless you acclimate me to your magic. And I still have to approach the miasma source repeatedly, don't I? They had never been equals, but this felt as if Aresh were cornering him with his life as leverage. Exactly. So you can't leave me, can you? No, I mean from a humanitarian standpoint. Then this is more efficient. Aresh answered without hesitation, as if stating something obvious. Saikaira stared at him. You're absolutely right. He was right. For work, Saikaira couldn't separate from Aresh for a while. Physical contact was necessary, even if he had no intention of becoming lovers. Since you won't leave, it's better to make intentions clear. It communicates more effectively that way. That's true. But didn't you consider that I might grow uncomfortable? That I might resent you? No. He said it calmly. I can tell by watching you. You value clarity over ambiguity, efficiency in all things. You seek results more than emotional impressions. So precisely analyzed that he had no rebuttal, Saikaira could only admire Aresh's sharpness. He was absurdly efficiency-obsessed. The process was secondary. The shortest path to maximum results was what mattered. Even in his department, doing all the work alone, though logically he should be training successors, had been the fastest way to stabilize palace accounting and prioritize the miasma crisis. Whether that was good was irrelevant. He had wanted immediate results. The same applied to his lack of mana tolerance and magical sickness. He should have consulted physicians. Instead, relying on Aresh was quicker, caused fewer work disruptions. And this was the bill for that choice. Whichever way this turns, Saikaira. I already know you can't give me an answer right now. So I'll take advantage of that. Because it's the most efficient approach. Aresh smiled, not cold, not childish, but confident. Magnificent enough to captivate anyone at a glance. 2 days after returning from the first purification expedition, Saikaira was summoned to the audience chamber. Before him stood the king, and beside him Crown Prince Julius. Yua was there as well. 1 tier below the royal family stood Chancellor Camille, several nobles he did not recognize, Redeem of the Second Order, and Aresh of the Third. Saikaira knelt in the center. Nobles and officials flanked him on both sides. Zoltarn and Ist were also present. Raise your head. At Camille's voice, Saikaira looked up. The king, unlike Julius's silver hair, wore gold. He looked somewhat older than Camille, though of similar age. Norbert's father, if he recalled correctly. First, well done on the expedition. The nobles murmured at the king's direct words of praise, but he continued. It seems you conducted miasma countermeasures separate from the purification. The expedition had been for the Saintess's purification. Conducting independent action without prior royal report could easily warrant censure. However, before the expedition party returned, I received a report from Viscount Balanek. What? Julius's eyes widened. Viscount Balanek, Norbert's adoptive father. May I speak? Granted. Remaining kneeling, Saikaira began. Through the Viscount's son in the accounting department, I was granted audience with Viscount Balanek. For the sake of the nation and the royal house, he ordered me to experiment with a sustainable countermeasure against miasma damage. The narrative was simple. This had been conceived for the royal house's benefit by a trusted noble. Saikaira had merely assisted. Using Camille or Aresh would centralize too much power. Norbert, his subordinate, was the perfect intermediary. I deeply apologize for reporting only after successful experimentation, so as not to burden His Majesty prematurely. The Chancellor was informed. A reminder that this was not rogue action. As previously reported, miasma expansion is currently suppressed. Depending on barrier duration, periodic deployment of barrier mages may resolve miasma damage. Preposterous. We have a Saintess. Such waste is unnecessary. Objections erupted from the nobles. Silence. You stand before the king. As Camille's voice cut through, palace attendants distributed prepared documents. What is this? A 50-year cost projection comparing Saintess summoning with barrier sealing. The ritual cost. Labor of high magic users. 50 years of Saintess upkeep. Compensation to Isekai. 3 expeditions. Versus barrier personnel costs. Monitoring structures. Maintenance. Wages. Even conservatively estimated, the difference exceeded 5-fold. 3 days have passed, and the barrier remains intact. Even with inflated barrier estimates, the gap stood. The ritual was expensive only because texts were lost. You weren't meant to come. Exclude your compensation. Even subtracting variables, the Saintess remained costlier. Many nobles fell silent before hard numbers. The Saintess is the nation's treasure. You would demean her over finances? Presumptuous otherworlder. Church-aligned nobles raised their voices. Julius's tone carried something more personal. After all, it meant binding one life for the nation. Then, I want to go home. A clear, fragile voice rang through the chamber. Yua.